What is happening, guys? Welcome to the video, another episode of Quarantine Combos. Today's gonna be a pretty simple one, just explaining how I built my squat rack. So as you guys know, we are under quarantine and all the gyms are closed, and I really don't have a lot of space or gym equipment at all. So me and my fiance, we live in a 2-bedroom apartment, so obviously space is not something we have, a big luxury of. Now, in this room right here, this was my office, which I did have a treadmill, which you can see over there. So I had that for cardio, but anything training wise, I went to the gym for. I didn't have anything of, any substantial weights. I had a couple random kettlebells sitting around, some bands, but nothing major. So as far as actually getting really good productive workouts in for me, I didn't have a whole lot. So once this whole quarantine thing started, I was like, okay, I need to try to figure out how I'm gonna get some equipment. So luckily, I found this bench that I'm sitting on right now, the one that you've seen in videos. It's nothing fancy. It's like a child-sized bench press, really. It's got a 1-inch bar, which is literally sitting right here. So it's not like the most stable. You're not gonna be able to load up hundreds and hundreds of pounds on it, but it works. So the bench came with the bar. It's adjustable incline bench. It's got 3 settings. So it's got your flat, and then 3 up, and then your decline. And it came with 100 pounds in plates, and then it has a leg extension, leg curl attachment. So for the most part, you can get a pretty decent workout in with this stuff, but obviously, I need a little bit more if I want to try to get optimal, really productive workouts in. So I was able to get some dumbbells. I have a pair of 40s, a pair of 20s, and then I got a bunch of different bands to do some band work. So you know what? We could probably get some decent work done. But once I got the first weekend of the quarantine workouts, I was like, okay, I need a squat rack. I need to be able to squat. I need to be able to deadlift. If this is gonna be longer than a couple weeks, I don't want to just this is my mindset, guys, and this is a little bit different than many, but people that have the same mindset as me, this will make a lot of sense. I don't want to just try to maintain during this time. I want to continue to try to progress, right? If this is 3-4 months of gyms not being open or whatever, I don't want to spend 3 or 4 months just coasting and hoping that I can keep what I've built. I want to continue to progress and try to build some muscle and make improvements. So then my brain started spinning of how I can kind of rig up a squat rack. Obviously, having it in here wasn't really an option, and at one point I was thinking about going to my parents' house once a week and just doing my squats and stuff there, because they have a ton of space that I could store it in. And then they started bringing out the rules that they didn't want people traveling, and people were getting fines and tickets for being on the road. So I was like, okay, that's not a good idea. I definitely shouldn't be risking that driving once a week or whatever it is. So then I stumbled upon this photo online that someone had built a squat rack just out of wood and stuff, but then they used stones for the plates. So I was like, oh, that's brilliant. That's easy. That's super smart. So I linked up with a friend of mine, and actually I worked for him for a little bit before we moved here, and he runs a landscaping business, and he of course has patio stones and interlocking brick and just a ton of extra material around his shop. So I sent him a quick message, and I was like, hey, if you have any extra stones lying around, I sent him the photo, and I was like, if you could help me build this, that would be awesome. So what we did is I'm gonna put up kind of over here, I'm gonna do a little diagram of how it's kind of structured, and I don't know if I have any footage of actually training that's been up on this video or not, but anyway, so you're kind of looking at a photo of it right now of how it's structured. So what we did was we needed a base first and foremost. So we needed something to have the legs of the squat rack sit on, so they don't rock and roll back and forth. Originally, we were gonna actually build a rack, a power cage, but then once the idea of me having to have it transportable almost, because it's literally just sitting in the back of my truck, and I take it out when I need it and I put it back when I'm done. So obviously having a big cage isn't gonna make that happen. So we just built these 2 stands that they're not attached at all, they're freestanding, that I take one out, stand it up, take the other one, stand it beside it, put the bar on it, and I'm good to go. And then I just put them back when I'm done. So we needed a base to stop the leg of the rack from falling, right? Obviously you don't want it to fall when you're like trying to rack the weight. So we just used a piece of plywood, and it's 2 feet square, so it's 2 feet, it's 24 inches square. That's your base. It's literally just a piece of like 1-inch plywood. It's nothing fancy. It was old and dirty and beat up, so it's not like you need to get brand new material for this stuff, because at the end of the day you're literally just gonna have it sitting on the ground, so it doesn't need to be anything special. So that is your base, piece of plywood, right? Then for the actual stands itself, it is 2 pieces of 2x4, and they're just drilled together, okay? So what we did was we had the square bottom, we put the 2 pieces of 2x4 in the middle, screwed them in so they're stable and they're attached to the base of it, and then we just screwed them in together, you know, two, whatever. Now, depending on how tall you are is obviously what's gonna dictate the height of it. I had it at where it's like shoulder height for me, so I could get under it, stand up, and I was clear from the rack. You don't want it to be here and then have to come up on your toes and then come down and then set it, because then when you try to rack it, it's gonna be high, right? So you want it to actually be low, and then when you come up, you got clearance to get it out. Okay, so I had it, I think it was like 54 inches, I think was the height that we had it at. Okay, so then on the base, obviously just having it screwed to there is not overly stable. So what we did was we put some kind of cross beams like this that were angled. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 on each side. I believe they were cut at 45-degree angles. It was either 45 or 22 and a half. I can't remember exactly, but we had one on each side. So you just have to measure whatever angle you need it at, whether it's 22 and a half or 45 degrees. And then they're just, again, pieces of 2x4, 1 on each side. So you have 4 and then 4 on each stand, okay? So that prevents it from rocking back and forth. Again, that is screwed into the 2x4s, the actual stand itself, and then screwed into the base up from the bottom, okay? So now you have a good solid base of stability, so it's not gonna rock back and forth, forward, backwards. Then for the top of the rack, obviously you need something to catch the bar when you rack it, or like it's not just gonna sit flush on the flat 2x4s, right? So the front one is just another piece of 2x4 cut, I think whatever the angle was, whether it's 22 and a half or 45 degrees, and it's cut up just a little bit, just so the bar doesn't rock back this way, so it's not that high, which you guys can see from the photo. It's just a little bit of a jet up, right? So you just have something to get over when you unrack the bar. But the back one is taller. The back one's probably like 4 or 5 inches, obviously, because when you rack the bar, you don't want to miss that and fall forward. You want it to actually like hit against something. That way it's stable. So you have one on the back that's a little bit taller on both racks, a little small one on the front, again, so you can click it in and click it out, and then you're good. The bar was the biggest challenge to make, in all honesty. The bar was like the hardest part of finding something that's not gonna bend. Depending on your strength level, obviously you're gonna need something a little bit stronger, you know, if you're a strong person. So for me, I was like, okay, can I still get a couple 100 pounds on this bar? We need something that's stable. So we looked all around and we were like searching, and obviously there's like different PVC pipe and different metal bars, but everything we had like wasn't strong enough, and it was really, it was gonna bend. But then we found this thin metal, like steel pipe, and it's used for, I'm not gonna know the name, and Andrew, if you watch this video, I'm sorry that I don't remember all the names, but it's if you're grading soil and you need it to be level, you use these bars to like kind of measure everything out with to make it level. And if you're like on a slope, you kind of use these bars to determine your slope and make sure it's all even and measured out. So those steel bars are super strong. And we were like bending them as hard as we could. We like balanced it, and we each like hung on each side, and that thing was not moving. But obviously that thin metal bar, like, it's too thin, right? It's literally only like that big. So to have that on your back and to try to put weights on it, that wasn't gonna do. So we found a pipe that's probably about this big, maybe like 2 inches in diameter, that we put the metal pipe inside. So then that big pipe was a little more cushion on your back, but also like easier to measure for the weights to sit on. So we put that in there, we sealed the ends up, and there you go, you got a bar. The bar itself weighed, it was like 11 or 12 pounds, so obviously it's not a 45-pound bar, but right now, I don't really care if it's exact or perfect. I just need a bar to hold the weights, right? I can factor in the numbers later. So then we had the rack built, we had the bar set up, now we just needed weights, which we used just patio stones that he had extra. Obviously there's a bunch of different sizes. We wanted to try to find ones that were close to actual like plate weights that you would find at the gym. So the big ones that you guys have seen me use in videos and stuff like that, they're 40 pounds. So all we did was we drilled a hole in the middle of them. It's not perfect by no means, like it doesn't just fit snug on the bar. There's definitely space, and you guys have seen like in videos and stuff, you see me like squatting. The weights roll sometimes, they're not perfectly square, but as long as they stay on there, that's all that matters. That's all I'm worried about, right? So we drilled a hole in 8 of those ones, so I had 8 40 pounds, and then we found some smaller ones that were a little bit like smaller this way, but a little bit thinner as well, and they're around like 22 pounds or something like that. So I'm basically just calling them 40s and 20s just for simple math. So I've right now got about 370 or 380 pounds in weights. I wouldn't mind a little bit more. When I need smaller weights is using these and putting them on like the end of the bar. I have clamps. They're literally like what you would use to like jump your car battery. My dad had like an old like shitty pair in his garage that I just snagged. So I snagged them, and that holds the weights in place. So I have 5s, 10s, and 15s for kettlebells. So I can slide those on the bar, and then that kind of gives me a little bit extra poundage on the ends. So it's a little bit makeshift, guys, but it works. So hope you enjoyed this. A little bit of a description of how I built this rack. It's definitely not complicated. It took us like maybe 2 hours of our time, and it's just spare lumber. Like I didn't buy anything new. It's just extra stuff lying around. So whatever you can find, I assure you, you can make something work. And then another thing too, some people have been putting like extra like notches onto it so you can have like different heights like a normal squat rack. So if you're like doing bench or like a shoulder press or something like that, you have different levels. That's something that I didn't do because I didn't need to, but it's definitely an easy option if you need that. So you can make it work. I'm telling you, just a little creativity, a little determination, and it can be done. So thanks for watching the video, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.